Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06 here on O'Connor and Company on a busy Monday morning, the second day of December. It feels like we're already well into the week with this news cycle and the cascade of major breaking stories over the weekend, beginning with the announcement that Kash Patel has now been tapped to be the new director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And then last night's not so stunning, but still absolutely maddening announcement from President Joe Biden that he will offer a full and unconditional pardon to his son for any crimes that he may have committed, going all the way back to January 1st, 2014 through yesterday. That includes 3 years and 10 months of the Biden presidency.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just waiting for Joe.
That's right. All of that leads us to Joe diGenova. Joe, I mean, begin wherever you'd like. Take it away. I mean, first of all, congratulations. This validates not only what you said that Joe Biden would do this, but also I think that this validates for all of us, all of the crimes and everything that we have been looking at that Hunter Biden's been involved with, that the propaganda press, Joe Biden himself, every Democrat who enables him, and sadly many Republicans in this town have said, no, there's nothing wrong with what Hunter did. No, this is all a witch hunt against the Bidens. It's all political. Well, no pardon needed if it's all political. Right, Joe?
Well, he pardoned his co-conspirator in the greatest shakedown of foreign leaders and foreign companies in history. Look at the starting date of the pardon. It starts in 2014. January of 2014, shortly thereafter, Hunter Biden goes on the board of Burisma. When he starts shaking down the company, people in Ukraine, when Joe Biden threatens the president, if you don't fire the prosecutor, I'm going to Victor Shokin. I'm going to hold back $1 billion in loan guarantees. Joe Biden is the worst president in the history of the United States. He confirms it by pardoning his co-conspirator, his criminal co-conspirator. It's unbelievable that a president of the United States, and remember, he's president until January 20th, 2025. He's still there. He can still do damage. He's already fomenting war. The only thing that's missing is pestilence. I mean, he's ready to bring us the apocalypse. The guy is unbelievable.
Joe,
everything he touches turns to crap.
Yeah, you just said that he pardoned his co-conspirator, and it's fair to say that there is definitely evidence to suggest that Joe Biden benefited financially greatly from his son's illegal activities that have just been pardoned by Joe Biden. So my question here is, now that Hunter Biden has a complete and unconditional pardon, if a U.S. attorney were to call him in to testify about what his father's involvement was, Hunter Biden cannot claim the fifth now. Is that correct?
He can't, he's not going to be able to indict Joe Biden because the fact is that the things that Joe Biden did were official acts. The withholding of the loan guarantee, regardless of the reason, the motivation. By the way, the Trump presidential immunity case in the Supreme Court protects him from being indicted about that. But that doesn't mean other people who were involved in the scheme couldn't be indicted. There were people all over the place that knew that Biden was being shaken down. People in the State Department, people on the National Security Council. This should be investigated. There should be subpoenas going out. And the first subpoena should go to Barack Obama. You think Barack Obama didn't know that Biden was shaking down people? Biden admitted that he was shaking down people. And what did Barack Obama do about it? Absolutely nothing. And by the way, it gets the first subpoena not because of Biden, but because of January 2017, when he had that meeting with Joe Biden, James Comey, John Brennan, Sally Yates, the acting attorney general of the United States, and Susan Rice wrote her famous memo that President Obama said he wanted everything done by the book in the investigation of Donald Trump and the Russians. First subpoena goes to Barack Obama.
Do you think, Joe, this is why we are starting to see the panic about Kash Patel? I'd love to get your answer on that, but also what are your predictions for Kash Patel and him being approved by the Senate?
Well, first of all, it is the reason that you're seeing panic because the people, and it isn't the rank and file agents for the most part. It's the people on the seventh floor and inside the Justice Department. I mean, the issue is very, very simple. The FBI was corrupted by Christopher Wray, and here's the scary part. Overnight, Senator Mike Rounds, who is a Republican senator from Oklahoma, said that Christopher Wray has always been a great FBI director and is exactly what the Bureau needs. Now, this guy's going to be sitting in judgment of Kash Patel. This worries me immensely. Rounds can't be that stupid. He cannot be that stupid. And if he is one of the people who prevents Kash Patel from becoming the next FBI director, he will pay for this politically. And it will happen in Oklahoma, I can assure you. You can't be that dumb. He's got something. The Bureau has to have something on Senator Rounds.
Joe, actually, earlier in the program, I said that after what we just saw from Joe Biden, it's full validation for every single one of Donald Trump's unconventional cabinet selections. This is exactly why we need new blood, and we need people who are not part of the problem, that are outside of the problem, that have the wherewithal to be able to fix it. When a Republican senator comes out and is suspicious or hesitant about whether Kash Patel should be nominated, at this point, Joe, I assume that person's part of the problem. The only reason they don't want Kash Patel in there is because they got a nice little thing going.
I can't imagine what would make Senator Rounds from Oklahoma, a Republican, say what he said. First of all, it is so obvious. From watching
Can I just before we, because my wife is from Oklahoma, I think he's from South Dakota. I don't want to, because
I thought it was
because the two senators from from Oklahoma are Lankford and Mullins. So I just want to make sure. No, that's all right. No, you're right, because we called out Senator Rounds earlier as well, but I just want to make sure Oklahoma gets a clean slate. Go ahead, Joe.
My fault. First of all, for anybody to observe the tenure of Christopher Wray, with all of the scandals, and him never doing anything about any of it, other than late in the game, not even decrying it, but saying it was an isolated problem that's been taken care of. There has never been a more out-of-touch FBI director who's talk about an empty suit. It's just remarkable. But the thing that bothers me is that a senator could look at him and look at the record and say that after the raids on Christian homes, the prosecution of pro-lifers, the insanity of the search of Mar-a-Lago and no objection being raised by the FBI director. Does anybody think that would have happened if Christopher Wray had said to Merrick Garland, Mr. Attorney General, you may have technical reason to do this, but you really shouldn't do this for the good of the country. Where was Christopher Wray? What is Senator Rounds thinking of?
We got so much to get to with Joe diGenova, with the pardon and with the nomination of Kash Patel and other aspects of this transition. Joe, can you stick with us for one more segment, please, sir?
Oh, I sure can.
Thanks, big guy. 7:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Upgrade to a new walk-in shower from Long Baths. Call now to get your free estimate today.
Joe diGenova continues. I called him the big guy, but not the big guy, and let's just be clear on that. But I've got a couple of questions for you. The first is, you said that because of the immunity decision on Donald Trump, that anything that Joe Biden did as an official act is free of any sort of prosecutorial scrutiny. But what if he executed an act for the sole purpose of personal gain and profit? Basically, you can do something as president or vice president in your official role, and even if there is clear evidence that the reason you did it was so that you could personally, financially gain from it to the tune of millions of dollars, that's still fine?
Well, the thing that's about this is you get complete immunity for core presidential acts, which the loan guarantee is not. You get presumptive immunity for acts like the one involving Ukraine. And so there could be an investigation, and whether or not there would be charges would remain to be seen. It would be a difficult case to make because he has the patina of official conduct and was given. Remember, Barack Obama gave him the portfolio to manage Ukraine.
Yeah.
And he can say and do things within that that are obnoxious and horrible, but that we would accept as part of the process of nasty foreign relations things. But it would be a difficult case. I'm not saying it wouldn't be worth doing, but you got to have the right kind of special counsel to do all of this, and we'll see whether or not they get
sort of
that
a
far.
thread and needle there for the 4 years when he wasn't vice president and wasn't president.
That's
the family made money, and then that involved his influence. Okay.
And by the way, you don't have to be he personally did not have to receive a single cent, as long as members of his family.
Absolutely.
The bribery statute is written in such a way that they Congress thought of this, said, well, the guy's not dumb enough to take the money himself. He's going to make sure the money goes to his family members. That was a violation of the bribery statute, what he did with his son.
That's right.
Because the shakedown occurred, family members got the money. That's bribery under the federal bribery statute.
Right. I used to make the analogy when people would say, it's like, okay, you team up with your son to rob a bank, but your son keeps all the money. You're still guilty of robbing the bank. All right.
That's correct.
Joe, I was told that Donald Trump keeps nominating people who are unqualified for their positions. Kash Patel, FBI director. He's a former assistant attorney. He worked in the Justice Department as a lawyer. He was then the head
deputy at ODNI.
Deputy at the director of national intelligence. He was also the top staff member for the House Intelligence Committee, and then chief of staff at the Pentagon. Seems like that's a pretty good resume to be director of the FBI, but I'm told now because he's never been an FBI agent, he is disqualified from the job. Could you chime in on that new criteria?
Well, Judge Webster, who was head of the FBI, had never been an FBI agent. Christopher Wray had never been an FBI agent. The only FBI
J.
agent
Edgar Hoover had never been an FBI agent because there was no FBI when J. Edgar Hoover took over the FBI.
Yeah, well, they're going to think of anything they can. And remember, Democrats do not care about the logic of what they're doing. The only thing they want to do is scream and yell. And certainly be vindictive and nasty and vicious during the confirmation process. You watch Dick Durbin during these hearings. He's very soft-spoken, but he is one of the nastiest people ever to be in the United States Senate. And I hope that Senator Kennedy takes him down the way somebody like Senator Durbin should be taken down.
By the way, Morning Joe has been wall-to-wall Kash Patel all morning long. Nothing on the pardons that I've seen except a quick mention at the top of the show. And one of the things that is the major objection to Kash Patel is that he has said in the past that things need to be investigated. Stuff that went on with Russian collusion, with a laptop, with censorship, the use of the FBI to delete or to ban people from social media, the Jeffrey Epstein thing, all of this stuff. And that's all being characterized as Kash Patel and Donald Trump will use the FBI to seek revenge on their political opponents. Can you sort of divine through and give us the truth on this? If you're utilizing your job as FBI director to seek out corruption and criminal behavior, even if you were the target or the new president was the target of that criminal behavior, that's not revenge. That's still seeking justice, isn't it?
You see, by the Democrats' logic, it's okay to make up a case against Donald Trump while you're in the Oval Office sitting there with the Barack Obama did. They made up a case against Donald Trump and pursued it. They're fine with that. But when you have actual violations of the law, like the shakedown in Ukraine and the shakedown scheme that President Biden and others did, and the other crimes that were committed in the name of law enforcement by Christopher Wray, the FBI, and Merrick Garland, that's different, because then all of a sudden you're being vindictive, and it's retribution to go after people who engaged in actual criminal activity. The most important thing about all of that is to simply ignore it. You simply ignore what the Democrats are saying, because they are in a protection mode at this point. And no matter what some of these other Democrats who say, I was listening to some guy over the weekend talk about how it was important for the Democrats to learn a new message. Their problem isn't their messaging. Their problem is their ideas and what they do and what they believe in. They believe in shutting you up. They don't want you to have free speech. They did everything they could to shut up Republicans and conservatives in 2020. That's right. And if they had the power to do it, they would do it again. That's why it's so important to have accountability, not retribution, legal and political accountability. That's what this election was about. The American people rejected the type of retributive justice that Garland and Biden and Christopher Wray were in charge of. And they rejected men in women's sports across the board.
Really, really quickly, Jake Sullivan and others this weekend have been saying things like, oh, the FBI has to remain independent. When in the world? Where are they getting this, Joe?
Well, Jake Sullivan is one of the dumbest people ever to be in government. All you have to do is watch him and listen to him. Between him and Blinken and Biden, the disaster that they had created in foreign policy, a war in the Middle East, a war in Asia. I mean, you cannot be as bad as they are. And John McCain had it right. He said Anthony Blinken should be nowhere near the State Department.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that speech on the Senate floor because he had worked with Blinken on the Foreign Relations Committee and knew that Blinken was an idiot,
and
an empty suit.
And look where we are after nearly 4 years of him running the State Department. Joe diGenova, always great to talk with you. I was sleepless last night knowing that we would get your opinion on all these things. Some call it raw red meat from Joe diGenova, but I call it a fine steak tartare. Thank you, Joseph.
All right. Thank you.
It is
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:37 on O'Connor and Company on a incredibly busy Monday morning here, trying to get a handle on the. Pardon me. Pardon me.
What?
Pardon me.
I didn't say anything.
No, I'm asking the president to pardon me.
Oh.
I didn't do anything nearly as bad as his son did,
Well,
and I would like a pardon
that
as
took a
well.
few
We should
minutes.
all get a pardon. I mean, God knows.
Do
I mean,
that.
I'm just letting you know. I mean, we're all guilty of something out there. We know that the U.S. attorneys can indict a ham sandwich, and we're supposed to think that's clever and funny. So I think
You're a Catholic pro-lifer. You better watch out.
I think the only fair thing is that every single American should have a blanket pardon like Hunter Biden has now. That's fair. We all get a one-off.
That's it.
Or
That's
in
it.
Hunter's case, 175 off.
Right.
All right, we'll get to that story with John Solomon from Just the News, but I'm not going to drag Trevor Matich into any sort of controversial political discussion. As much as I would love to talk to one of the foremost college football experts about this stunning, historic victory that Michigan enjoyed over Ohio State and this fake controversy over planting the flag, he is here to talk about the Washington Commanders. But first, feel free here, Joe, Trevor, if you could. This whole thing about planting the flag. I mean, when you've got a college, you went to BYU. You have some that cutthroat rivalry there with Utah, right?
Go ahead, Larry.
When you win a rivalry like that on the home field, I mean, it's just a thing. If you want to protect your house from your rival planting the flag at the center of the field, you beat them in the 60 minutes you've got. Otherwise, you go back to the locker room and you get better.
Well, that's the theory for Michigan. See, what happened here was Michigan was having a terrible season this year because their offense was awful. They were 6-5 coming into this game, whereas Ohio State was on track to play for the Big Ten championship.
They spent
and make the
$20
playoff.
million to put that team together to beat
Trevor
Michigan
talk.
this year.
Let
All right, sorry.
Trevor talk.
This was the year. And to beat Michigan this year, Larry, what you said, because Ohio State had lost 3 in a row to their bitter-hated rival, the Michigan Wolverines. And they had to beat them this year at home in Columbus,
This
Ohio.
was the year.
Well, this was the year. And Michigan went into the Buckeyes' house and beat them for a 4th straight year.
Spanked them.
Knocked them. Yes, spanked them hard. They knocked them out of the Big Ten championship game. And Ohio State just melted down.
Yeah.
I mean, they made big mistakes. Michigan made the plays they needed to play. So after the game, Michigan, victorious, after an awful, miserable season, tried to plant their flag. Of course, it's artificial turf, but symbolically, they had a flag and they sort of stuck it on the ground on the big O in the middle of the field. And the Buckeyes didn't like that, and they came out, and a fight ensued to the degree that the officials pepper sprayed the players.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
So that's
and
a whole
some
other
of
story.
the reporters out there got pepper
That was
sprayed
okay.
as well.
No. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think that we have another discussion about whether or not that's bad, but
Yeah.
but they pepper spray. And then one of the Michigan players came out, Khalil Mullins, running back, and said of the Buckeyes, some people just need to learn how to lose.
Yeah, that's great.
Because the Buckeyes came out and fought them when they did that. That was a great line. But, Larry, I'm going to make you mad at me because some people need to learn to be respectful when they win and not plant the flag on the other team's logo. And so it goes both ways, but it was an ugly scene. But for the Buckeyes, they now, having lost 4 in a row to Michigan, if they don't win the national championship this year, then the next 365 days will be the ugliest maybe they have ever been in the history of Buckeye Nation. And for Michigan, the suffering of their rival is the most delicious feeling
Larry is so happy.
ever. And you've got a year to revel in that.
It's so great. All right. Anyway, how about them Commanders? That was
oh, man.
Well, no, I mean, listen, I was at the game. I mean, that first quarter was just absolute domination. They go up 21-0. It's kind of fun when you know it's pretty much baked in the cake. But what was the difference here? Because they certainly turned it around. It's nice to play against the Titans, but there was more to it than that, right? The offense looked different.
Yeah, the offense was great. They ran the ball, and part of the reason is that the Commanders running back, Brian Robinson Jr., was healthier. Yeah. I mean, they lost 3 in a row coming into this game. I mean, they went from being right there near the top of the division to being just a half game ahead of the last wild card. In other words, they were barely clinging to the last wild card playoff spot because they had lost 3 in a row. Mm-hmm. But they also, Brian Washington didn't play in one of those games, and he was banged up in the other 2 and ineffective. And this one, he ripped off a 40-yard touchdown run in the first quarter, and that kind of announced his return to relatively full health. And so the running was really the big difference.
But also Jaden Daniels looked crisper as well. It's like they were having him pass much quicker. He wasn't sitting there waiting. He seemed to release the ball quickly after the snap. And boy, did they get Terry McLaurin involved in the game very quickly.
Yeah, that's been part of the problem over the losing streak was not getting McLaurin involved early enough. And in this game, they threw their first pass to him. Jaden Daniels on 1st and 10, first play, threw a 10-yard completion to Terry McLaurin to get him going, and they threw 2 touchdown passes in the first quarter to McLaurin. So that was huge as well, just because he's one of the best receivers in the league. And when you get your best receiver going early, it changes the defense because now they have to put more focus on that guy. And that opens up the running game and everything else happens well. So I thought it was very smart of Jaden Daniels and the Commanders to get McLaurin involved early. And by the way, I would say this too, Larry, you contributed mightily to this first quarter domination going up 21-0. Oh. The Titans, 2 of their first 3 plays were false start penalties because they couldn't hear the quarterback. You must have been yelling your Michigan Wolverine heart out.
Well, it's funny. Every time Terry McLaurin scored a touchdown, which was twice, or caught the ball, he, of course, is an Ohio State Buckeye, and I was yelling "Go Blue" every time he did that just to sort of get him going because I was
You've got to remind him who's boss.
Still coasting off the high. Hey, always great to talk. Wait, do you want to? I know your husband is an Ohio State fan. If you want to jump in here, Julie.
No,
You need to defend the horseshoe. No.
Go Buckeyes. There.
Well done. Well done, you.
Julie, they still will make the playoff, and they can still win the national championship.
Doesn't matter.
Hope springs eternal.
Larry, stop it.
It really doesn't matter.
Thank
it
you,
honestly
Trevor.
doesn't matter.
Thank you, Trevor.
We're going to the
And honestly, as far as like whatever happens, he is still going to gloat the entire year.
That's right. That's
like no matter if they win the national championship, he's still going to be insufferable.
Trevor, thank you. And
You're
this
great,
is going to be a
Trevor.
great December. I mean, Commanders now, facing some important games to stay. They're in the playoff. They're still in the playoff hunt. The season ended today, but boy, the NFC looks tough. From the Lions to the Eagles to the Vikings, it's going to be a tough NFC to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it will, but I like their chances. The toughest team they play, the only team with a winning record remaining on their schedule is Philly. So I think they're going to get in.
All right. Thank you, Trevor. Great talking with you as always.
Thanks,
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving. You did great this weekend, by the way. Honestly, I'm not kidding. Your coverage of college football there is just brilliant with ESPN. Keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you, Larry.
It's 7:45 WMAL traffic.
On the next Vince Colonnese show, the biggest threat to the left, the truth. It tells you a lot. Join us 3 to 6 right here on WMAL.
Online retailers and businesses that now utilize online shopping, they're hoping that you'll spend some money today on Cyber Monday. Julie Gunlock,
Don't start.
a lot of people take note that you tend to not have a lot of questions during our football segments, and they generally assume that it's because you're not a big fan of football, but they'd be wrong. It's because that's when you get your shopping done. I just looked over at
Bill
you
Hess is listening.
while
okay?
I'm talking to Trevor Matich, and you're doing Christmas. You're taking advantage of Cyber Monday. No, it's okay. You can say that you were doing research for
I
this
was testing it out, Bill.
Yes.
Bill, don't fire me.
But no, this is actually great because there's been some research into the origins of Cyber Monday, and apparently you just demonstrated the historical reality. Listen,
here's why Cyber Monday really started, but don't tell your boss. In 2005, the National Retail Federation saw a pattern forming in how people spent their money online after Black Friday, while everyone was back at the office on Monday. The NRF realized there was an increase in web traffic that came from faster or more secure internet connections at work. Remember, back in 2005, folks were still using dial-up. A survey from shop.org at the time found that more than 37% of people said they'd use internet access at work to shop for the holidays.
there you go. Now, I don't
That really
trust
was the perfect segue.
I don't trust everything he says because he has a British accent, but because foreigners scare me, generally speaking. But what he says is true. That's how Cyber Monday started because people realized they were checking and people were shopping while at work.
Yeah.
On the Monday after the Black Friday sales. And so there you go. So do you have any tips for people since you've been...
There are some great sales out there, people.
Yeah.
Very
So
good.
what I don't understand is I've been getting these emails since last Monday.
Well,
I did make a big purchase last week in electronics, and it was sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's all the same.
I'm sort of
isn't it?
suspect of this stuff. And I will tell you, I do a ton of shopping on these websites. Like, they're basically websites that are like Home Goods or TJ Maxx. They're discount stores, and they have some online discount stores that I use, and I do a lot of shopping there. So, they might have some additional some additional discount, but I'm not really noticing it. I also sometimes, and honestly, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I sometimes wonder if these Cyber Mondays or even some of the sales, the Black Friday sales, are actually legitimate. I feel like
New York Post says that the deals are actually better than Black Friday. Says Turkey Day may be a memory by now, but we're still deep in the midst of the busiest shopping weekend of the year, featuring sales from basically every retail under the sun and offering huge Cyber Monday deals on everything from AirPods, air fryers, tablets, TVs, baby clothes, beauty products. It goes on and on and on. And they said that some of the deals here are, in fact, better than Black Friday. I don't know.
Well, will you be doing? Do you now? I told
does
you
all the shopping.
I am
for us.
done. I've done all my Christmas shopping, but I told you, but I still sometimes continue to buy when I find good deals. So
Even
maybe
your shopping is done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meredith ends up buying for all the kids, and we buy each other. We decided this early on in our relationship.
Cruise.
We do vacations together,
and
that
that's
sort of
smart.
it covers our anniversaries, and we're going on
Yes.
vacation soon. And that will be our present to each other. And then she ends up buying. Although I'm not like one of those husbands who just checks out. She lets me know what she's looking at, what she's thinking of. She asks me, "What do you think of this for EJ? What do you think of this for Veronica?" And I say, "Oh, good, yeah." And so I do participate, but she's the mastermind of all of it, and she's great at it.
I have to say, this is the first year my oldest son actually bought gifts for me and my husband.
Oh.
We didn't give him money for it. We didn't take him shopping. He did it all on his own. And honestly, it brought tears to my eyes when he mentioned it because he wanted to show me what he had gotten his dad, and he got him such a thoughtful gift. Not saying, because I know my husband's listening, but just felt like that was kind of a big moment.
I got something for Darren too. Actually,
Stop it.
What?
Larry.
I just figured he'd like to root for a winning team.
He just turned the radio back on.
All right,
He
fine.
just turned the radio
It's
back
7:53.